A lot of the success of our campaign has come from the fantastic headlines that we've generated by highlighting named person blunders. In many ways, I think the scheme has been a gift to journalists. There have been lots of thoughtful comment pieces too, though. Kevin McKenna, who writes for The Herald and The Guardian, amongst others, has written some of the most powerful, persuasive and balanced critiques of the scheme and of the government's handling of it. Kevin, thank you so much for agreeing to come to speak to us today. Let me just hand over to you. Kevin McKenna. Thank
you. Morning. Delighted to be here. Powerful, balanced. It's the first time I've been accused of that. Thank you. I was visiting my mum yesterday in Glasgow, the Venerable Maureen, and I was saying to her that I was going to be saying a few words at a named persons event, so we had a wee chat about this. And my mum is a Catholic lady from an Irish background whose faith is probably best described as traditional. And after a few minutes of me boring her, she brought the conversation abruptly to a conclusion by saying, "Named persons, is that not what guardian angels are supposed to be for?" And I said, "Mother, I think the angel Gabriel's been asleep in the job in some parts of the East End of Glasgow." For which, a while ago, I might have got a clip round the ear, which would have seen her face scrutiny. The named persons, I'd been the boss though, you'd be spared this. I've been a journalist for more than 30 years and worked either as an executive or a writer for almost every major title in Scotland, during which their circulations have gone down quite a lot. But I'd like to share a few thoughts on language and how it is often distorted when deployed to pursue a specific agenda. And I've seen this in the press and the broadcast media during this campaign, from the other side, if you like. You might have noticed that there's very possibly another campaign underway to determine Scotland's constitutional future again. And in the interests of openness and for the avoidance of doubt, I'm happy to state I'm a supporter of Scottish independence, and it's important for me to say that, just in case anybody thinks I'm not declaring vested interests. This is my preference, but I'm equally happy to state that I believe that family, faith, community and friendship are more important than whether Scotland becomes independent. We're not exactly living under the jackboot of a foreign dictator. Although there are certain aspects of certain legislation that this government, well-meaning though it may be, could be deploying some of those tactics. It's been said that truth is the first casualty of war. In Scottish independence campaigns, the first casualty is language and the proper meaning of words. Thus we will hear a lot over the next few years that another referendum is divisive and the cause of uncertainty. Divisive and uncertainty. Let's consider these words. Military dictatorships and totalitarian states embrace uniformity, predictability, and certainty. In these places, the people crave division and uncertainty. And some Scottish nationalists, on the other hand, will accuse their unionist opponents of doing Scotland down or of not being genuine Scots. They willfully ignore and fail to respect that many Scots have a deep and abiding affection for the British Union, born of shared values and shared sacrifices. And in America, it seems that Donald Trump is trying to completely reconfigure the English language. Journalists have to be careful about accepting invitations to speak in public at events such as these. No matter our personal views, it's unwise for us to openly back a political party or a cause by mounting a platform, even if their writing might betray a bias in one direction or another. Occasionally, though, it's appropriate for a journalist to talk at an event such as this if he or she believes that by doing so, they may be advancing the interests of authentic democracy and holding governments to account. And I think this is what this event is doing. I believe that this No to Named Persons event is, as I've said, one such an occasion. And I've previously mentioned one-party dictatorships, and I don't think that Scotland is remotely like that, no matter how long the SNP are in power. But I do believe that something sinister has insinuated itself into our political infrastructure. Scotland, we are fond of imagining, is one of the most diverse countries in the world, where all minorities are treated with equal respect. It is a melting pot of opposing views and disputed policies. We like to think that our democratic institutions and liberal instincts will help us heal division, and most of the time they do. But the way in which the political establishment in this country has consistently reacted to opponents of the proposed named person legislation would suggest that in modern, enlightened and diverse Scotland, some are more equal than others. Now, for a few years I've been covering the last Scottish referendum, the last couple of elections, and I'm looking forward to doing so in the second referendum. But the abuse that I received for writing 2 articles in the Observer about named person and expressing my opposition to it far eclipsed anything that I got for writing about the referendum. And the problem with that is, I mean, I'm not a snowflake, but you can't exactly tweet somebody back who's been giving you abuse, and when you're talking about care and compassion and protection such as this, you can't exactly tweet them and invite them outside for a square go. So you just have to, you've just got to be kind of, yeah, okay, fine, you know, God bless you, brother. To hear John Swinney, a man for whom I have the utmost respect, personally and professionally, dismiss opponents of named persons in the way that we just saw him a few minutes ago, and to surround himself with advisors who are whispering in the ears of journalists that, you know, the opponents of this are fundamentalists, they're kind of Christian evangelicals. As if even if you were, that, you know, you wouldn't have a voice anyway, but that's another issue. And other voices within government and at Holyrood have gone further. Thus, you know, the opponents of named persons are reviled as mad and unhinged and slightly unsafe and unsavoury. And it's an attempt to smear an entire broad-based coalition of concerned individuals and organisations, rather than engage them with honesty and on specific points at issue. As I said, there's something insidious unfolding here. I've seen it in left-wing politics. I'm happy to say I'm a socialist. I'm sprung from several generations of socialists and trade unions since the McKennas first got off the boat from Monaghan about 140 years ago. But we're Christians first, and we think that our Christianity and our socialism complement each other, curling around each other like, you know, the ribbons and those DNA models and informing each other. That's just our experience of it. Yet increasingly I've found that it's not considered acceptable by many on the left, many of my compadres, if you like, to even begin to understand or have a discussion about, let's say, the Middle East, and maybe even to begin to understand the Israeli position in certain aspects, or to even now talk about the sanctity of the unborn child, not even to express support one way or the other, but even to introduce it as unacceptable, rendered unacceptable in left-wing politics, so that we're alienated or seen as extreme. And this is happening with the No to Named Persons campaign. I've observed close up how the lie advanced by the Scottish Government that opponents of named persons are mad fundamentalists gains traction by a liberal elite of opinion formers in our newspapers and broadcasting outlets. I know them all. Most are solid journalists and good people. They're entitled to believe that the named person scheme may protect vulnerable children, but there is a thinly disguised veneer of contempt for those who oppose it. They are fundamentalists, they are the hard right, they are UKIP supporters, fascists, religious fanatics. I mean, I'm expecting any day now to be told that the leaders of ISIS are part of this campaign. Opponents are accused of aiding and abetting paedophiles, child murderers, they are middle-class busybodies. Some people I know have used it as an argument against Catholic schools. I don't get that one either. Other speakers at this conference that you've heard and you're about to hear have exposed in detail the anomalies and risks of named persons. My chief concern is that it will inevitably, even if inadvertently, target families who are encountering chronic social disadvantage. Thus, a child wearing the same clothes 3 days running may pique the interest of a teacher fearful of failing to intervene if there is a genuine problem. Better to be safe than sorry. I think the government's using it as a shortcut to papering over the cracks of their own social care agenda. In this affluent country, we have a huge gap between rich and poor. We have an educational attainment gap. In Glasgow, there is a 20-year mortality gap in a 7-mile stretch of the M8 running east to west. In some neighbourhoods in the East End of Glasgow, where I'm from, the degree of health inequality eclipses some third world countries. There are ways of addressing this which may take 20 or 30 years to bear fruit. They will cost a lot of money and involve a radical root and branch evisceration of the managerialism that chokes our health and social care services. We won't address them by shallow populist policies such as the Named Person Scheme or the Offensive Behaviour at Football Act. Both of these illiberal edicts target families who have been on the margins of our society for more than a century. It will target people who do not have the tools to resist. Grinding poverty, alcohol abuse, violent crime, unemployment, health inequality, fuel inequality, all of these come together to beget violence against children in many circumstances. This government, though, instead of properly addressing them, would rather reach for gestures and quick fixes that make it look that it is doing something. The Named Person Scheme is one of these, and I really do hope you prevail in your opposition. Thank you.